All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. Today's lesson is going to be about the actual American Revolution. Now, the thing is, I'm not going to be putting every single battle into this lecture. Um, there will be some stuff that I will be putting on TikTok, but that'll be for that time, and I'll explain which part I'll be putting on TikTok. Okay, but the thing is, uh, we're going to see how our country basically went from colonies, was owned by Britain to basically being independent and on our own. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to our objectives. So there they are. We're going to analyze the events leading to America's independence. We're going to critique the matchup between colonies and Britain, and then we're going to develop a logical argument on what was the real reason why France helped out America. Why did they help the colonists out? So we're gonna look at that and let's see if you guys accept one point of view or this other point of view. Okay. All right. So there's your warm-up picture. Now, the question I'm asking you is this: based off the analysis of the picture and what it says on the bottom, what do you think what do you think this artist is trying to say about our founding fathers' biggest fear was for the future? Okay, remember, these guys, just had an idea about how our government should be, what kind of country we should be, the type of laws and things like that. They didn't know if it was going to work. They had no idea. They just, hey, we got some ideas, put this down. This is how we think the government should be, you know. So, what do you think? Okay, so again, if you read the very bottom, that will help you out in answering this question. Okay, so pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so the last time we left off, we talked about the Battle of Lexington, okay, where the British military ran into the militia, and remember, somebody shot a gun. We still to this day don't know who, but we know for a fact once that gunshot was shot, the first one, both sides started shooting at each other and things like that. And at the Battle of Lexington, 8 Minutemen were killed and 10 were wounded. So once that little skirmish finished, the British kept marching towards Concord. And remember, their job was to go and confiscate the ammunition and guns that were hidden in Concord. So when they went there, they didn't find anything. But they what was waiting for them was 400 militiamen just hiding, using guerrilla tactics. And these guys came from behind stone walls, barns, and other ways they can get cover behind trees and things like that. And then they start shooting at each other, right? Now, thing is, the British are kind of forced to retreat. But at the same time, they did their objective. They basically found out that hey, there's the stockpile of guns and ammunition is gone. So they retreat. Because hey, why shoot it out with these guys? Why bother having some of our guys die when we did what we're supposed to do? So they retreated. Now, word spread like crazy. The Minutemen fought back the British Army, and it just spread like wildfire throughout the country and the colonies. So a bunch of men who were part of militias and other counties and states and some of that made their way to Boston. Now it's one thing to have a militia, group of citizen soldiers and stuff like that. You need a leader, and that's what these guys were like. We need somebody to command, some train some troops and somebody to lead these guys and somebody that everyone believes in. And everyone was like, oh my God, there's one guy who could lead an army, and that is George Washington. All right, so I'll probably be actually making a little TikTok video thing on George Washington. Probably not this week, but maybe later on. Okay. Now, at the Battle of Bunker Hill, The militia and the British soldiers fight again. And as you can tell from the name, it was on a hill. The militia were had the advantage. They were above the top of the hill. The British soldiers were coming up. And the thing is, the militia fought back two advancements of, again, the greatest military force in the world. At that time, Britain, their army was top notch. They were the best. And the militia's fighting them back. Here comes one wave of soldiers. Here comes another wave right behind them. And the thing is, the British kept coming and kept coming. They did not falter. They just kept marching up the hill. And the thing is, the militia had to retreat. Not that they got scared, like, oh my God, these guys keep coming. Oh my God, we need to run. No, believe it or not, they ran out of ammunition. You know, they ran out of bullets. They're like, what do we do? Throw rocks at them? No. So they had to leave. Okay. Now, this is something that's pretty interesting. Um, on July 5th, 1775, the Continental Congress actually decided, you know what? Let's send a letter to King George. So they sent this thing called the Olive Branch Petition. In this letter, it basically told the king, look, here's the thing, dude. We give you our loyalty. You know, you can still be our king and this and that. We're not upset at you. This is not personal. It's your policies. They suck. You're taxing us to death, and you won't let any of our people here represent us in England, in the House of Commons, in the House of Lords. You know, we need some representation. If you give us that, we'll be loyal to you. King George is told this is a letter from the Continental Congress. It's for you. He didn't even read it. He just basically goes, huh, and then goes, these colonists, he declares it, are enemies to the British crown. Who knows what would happen if he actually had read it? He may have said, okay, fine. If this is what it takes to prevent war and to, for you guys to be loyal to me, who knows? Or maybe he would have said still, no, no, we're going to war. But just the fact that he ignored it, who knows how history would have changed. Now, in January 1776, Thomas Paine published this book called Common Sense, which is, this is like one of the original copies right here, you see to the side. The book was very good in the sense that it swayed public opinion that this is for mainly the Americans, but also mainly the British. It swayed them. The Americans already knew this stuff, but Britain people were like, really, huh? You're not really, Parliament's not really to blame. It's the king and his tyrannic rule. His no, we're gonna make them pay. We're gonna make them pay. We're gonna put all these taxes on them and stuff like that. So it made some people start to think like maybe the king is to blame for this, and maybe the war, this upcoming war that might be happening, maybe it's not a good thing. So, Declaration of Independence. A lot of you guys know the date, July 4th, 1776. The colonists, this is when we officially declare our independence from Britain. Now, this is when the American Revolution officially starts. It kind of started again, the fighting started with the shot heard around the world. But now that this Declaration of Independence is written, it's submitted and stating to the world, what we're doing. Now the American Revolution officially starts. And yes, Thomas Jefferson, which would be our third president, did write this. Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I love boxing. I love watching MMA. And the thing I really like before the fight is when they put the stats, how old, their reach, their weight, things like that. I love that. So I did kind of like that with Britain and America. Okay, so what are their four advantages? Well, Britain, number one, their army was large. It was huge. For being such a tiny island, they had so many soldiers. The other thing is they were well funded. they had a lot of money. So if their soldiers were like, we need more guns, we need cannons, we need this or that, no problem. No problem. Here you go. Okay. One of the other really big ones is that they were very well disciplined. When people are getting shot left and right, they are focused. They march. No problem. My buddy Ted right next to me got shot in the face. Okay, sad thing. Moving on. Kind of like that Loki meme, very sad. Anyway, you know, that's how they were. They just kept marching. Um, and this goes to the last part too. How do you get to be very disciplined? You need experience. You know, some of these soldiers, they've been in several battles around the world and they know what it's like. Like, hey, the guy next to me might get shot. I might get shot. You know, but I got a job to do. I have a duty to get done. Bam, I'm going to do it. So they were pretty intimidating. Now, the Americans, let's see what their four advantages are. Number one, they were fighting in their home turf. And I don't care what anyone says, when you have home field advantage, especially in a war, you're going to do well. Because remember, it's like if somebody from, um, let's say Nevada, the next state over, if they come into Fresno and they're trying to fight you, trying to chase you down, you know the best routes around town. You know when the traffic is going to be heavy in certain parts of town at certain times. Why? Because you live there. You know things that they don't know. So having home field always best. The second thing is they had help from local militias that used different tactics that the British were not used to. The British used the standard formation, which was kind of known as the gentleman's way of fighting. Shoulder to shoulder, you marched in the line in like open field and stuff like that. Um, the militia basically, again, hid behind stone walls, trees, set up ambushes, things like that. So they did fight out in the open too. There were the Continental Army did, but militia, they were a little bit more sneaky. Okay. Another big thing that helped out the Americans was not every British person supported the war. They felt it wasn't worth it. So again, that Thomas Paine book, The Common Sense, that was one of the things that helped the Americans. And lastly, even though Britain had a huge army, they were fighting not only Americans, they were fighting the French, the Spanish, and the Dutch all at the same time. So they were spread out around the world pretty thin. So if they needed reinforcements, it might take some time. They could, easily could get some, but it might take time to go from, oh, you're on this side of the world, get on the boat, head on over to support these guys. Okay, and those boats were not like how they are now. Sometimes it took months, depending on the sea and the waves and things like that. So early on in the war, Britain dominated. I mean, they were kicking the crap out of the American soldiers, beating them left and right. And it wasn't until December 25th, 1776, that Washington just basically did like a sneak attack. If you could tell, that's Christmas Day. He did a little sneak attack. He was on the other side of the Delaware River, and the British were like, "Ah, oh, they're over there. They're running away," things like that. And Washington basically said, "We're going to cross this river, the Delaware River, and surprise attack them." And that's what they did. He had 2,400 soldiers um, go with him, and they went in their boats and attacked. Okay. Yes, this picture is dramatized. No, Washington was not standing up and things like that. But funny thing is, a future president is in that picture too, besides Washington. I want to say it was Monroe, if I remember right. Now, that battle we won. Now, later on, General Howe, which is a British leader, decides, you know what? The best way to attack somebody is to attack their heart. And what's this wannabe new country, America? What is their heart? And he's like, the Continental Congress. If we go to Philadelphia, capture their Congress, and basically hold them for like ransom in a sense. Tell them, hey, either we execute the Congress or you guys, you know, and you guys surrender, or we're gonna kill them. That was the plan, just to capture the Congress, and then that would force like people like Washington to surrender, or hey, we might execute them, we might send them back to England to be tried and be executed as traitors to the crown. You know, so the thing is, Washington gets word that Howe is heading towards Philadelphia. Washington intercepts them, and they start fighting right outside Philadelphia. While they're fighting, Washington had some men go into Philadelphia and tell the Continental Congress, get out of here. The British are coming. They're trying to capture you guys. I mean, leave. So these guys are like cockroaches when you turn on the lights, and they're running off. You know, Washington held off the British Army long enough so that the Continental Congress can leave, get out of the town, and find somewhere safe to be. Now, later on October 17th, 1777, the Continental Army captures 5,000 British soldiers who were coming from Quebec, Canada, to support General Howe. They basically trapped them in like a little valley area. And this was huge news. To capture 5,000 of the best soldiers in the world. Wow. And when the French heard about this, they were kind of talking to each other, going, you know what? Maybe these colonists, these Americans, maybe they might actually win. And they're like, they've been asking for help, so maybe we should help them out. Now, why? That's another thing. So the British are now they're losing in the north. They're now focused to the south, and they bring in the big guns. On May 8th, 1780, General Charles Cornwallis, one of the best generals that the British had, he captures 5,000 troops in Charleston, South Carolina. This guy was a master strategist. If you've seen the movie The Patriot, you know, they don't really exaggerate too much. He is a very smart man when it comes to war. Now, the thing is, he's very used to, again, standard fighting, in the marching in the fields and, shoulder to shoulder. And again, people like soldiers like the militia, they don't really do that kind of stuff, you know. So on October 7th, 1780, the Battle of the Kings, the American troops are able to force the British out of the South. And on September 19th, 1781, they basically cornered them in this town called Yorktown. And this is where Cornwallis and 8,000 troops are trapped, and they surrender because the Americans and the French have them, right, on land, and the French and American ships are on the sea, so they just surrounded them. And Cornwallis surrenders. And again, like I told you guys, he was like one of the best generals they had. And when Parliament hears Cornwallis surrenders, they basically like, you know what? Let's end this war. Let's just end it. Just give them what they want. This war is costing us too much, too many soldiers. It's embarrassing us that these colonists are beating us and they captured our best general. No, let's just end this. So peace talks begin on April 1782. But if you look at the date when the Treaty of Paris is officially signed, it's September 3rd, 1783. Because you have to remember, there's a lot of things that they have to iron out. You get this land, this is how much you have to pay, this is, stipulations to surrendering. You get back these soldiers, we get some like this, get back these guys. There's a lot of negotiation, and it takes a lot of time. Okay. But with the Treaty of Paris, America is officially recognized as a free nation to the world. Now, part of the treaty also said that Britain had to give Florida back to Spain and France got a lot of concessions. They got money back. They basically, the British had to say a lot of things like, yeah, we started this war. It's our bad. We lost. Have to officially tell the whole world we lost. And this is just making the French people just drool like, oh, yes, we love this. Oh, keep saying all this stuff. 'Cause remember, they're rivals. They don't like each other. So here's my question to you. Do you think France decided to help the colonists because they felt, hey, these guys deserve freedom from the British, things like that? Or do you think that they just really wanted revenge? Because of the French and Indian War that they lost, they had to give up all that land and stuff like that. What do you think? Do you think they believed in the Americans, like, hey, these guys can get their independence and they can beat Britain. We should help them out. Or do you think it was all about, we want revenge? We want to get back at Britain and make sure that they lose, you know, and let the whole world see you guys lost to a bunch of colonists. These guys barely had an army. So what do you think? Which one do you think it is? They believed that we deserve freedom, or do you think it was the rivalry that, hey, nah, we want these guys to lose? Which one do you think? Which one do you believe? Okay. Now, as you can see, I didn't put a writing prompt on because I want to see how you guys write a complete sentence. Okay. So please try your best, take your time on it. Okay. And really think about this question. All right. So, with that being said, you guys take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.